Happy Thursday. Jerome Powell changes his mind more than a teenage girl. Let's digest this. So yesterday we had the release of the Fed fund meeting. Like I've been saying going into this, we were expecting a 50 basis point increase. That's exactly what we saw. Get out there on social media and educate your customers with this simple statement. The Fed rate hike is not mortgage interest rates. I predict we are going to actually see mortgage interest rates get better as we go into the year. And the reason why is the Fed fund rate hike was to help slow down inflation. We have 2 months of consumer pricing index reports showing back to back that inflation's coming down. So as we go throughout the 2023 arena, inflation is just going to continuously show that it's coming down, things are recovering, and the Feds are going to lower and lower and lower the Fed fund rate. They need to be careful on how they progress, and I think that's why Jerome Powell changed his mind like a teenage girl yesterday. So he first started out talking to the news channels, and see what happens is typically his speech after the release of the Fed fund update, his speech is what impacts how investors decide to move money around on the markets. That is exactly why mortgage bonds either get better or worse after a Fed fund rate meeting, because of the way that he talks to the public. That shifts the mindset on the stock market, and that can mean a quick rally on mortgage bonds to either buy more bonds to protect money that's going to be lost on other stocks, or a quick run up on other stocks to buy, which removes money from bonds. So that's exactly why mortgage interest rates go up and down. It's because it's risk in the stock market and what else is happening in the stock market. So anyway, so he comes out of this meeting talking about how, they need to still be aggressive. They need to keep pushing heavy into next year, and that they're going to actually increase the Fed fund estimate of what they expect their final number to look like, even higher than predicted. Then he turns around and says, but inflationary data is showing that it's coming down. And in February, when we meet again, I won't be surprised if we do a 25 basis point increase. That's a pretty significant drop from today. In 2 months from now, they're going to drop half of a basis point again on the Fed rate hike. So that is showing investors, that is showing the market that we are seeing those recessionary pressures, and that we are seeing it on the consumer aspect side. Our American household, our families, they are struggling. And so we do need to slow down what we're doing on the Fed side, and they are going to slow down. What does that mean? Recessionary markets always leads to money moving to mortgage bonds to protect investments. And when they move to mortgage bonds and you have more investors buying bonds, what happens? Mortgage interest rates go down. How soon will this happen? Well, I think we're going to be in a yo-yo pattern for a little while here as we see things happen. I do think when that movement starts to happen, I think we're going to have so many buyers jumping back into the purchase arena that even though interest rates are coming down a little bit, house prices are going to start to go up and seller concessions are going to go away. So it's a tight, hard spot to be in, right? We don't like high interest rates, but we love seller concessions. We don't get seller concessions when there is a push for buyers to purchase a single house, and we have a ton of first-time home buyers that want to buy a house. So their first-time home buyers are coming into the market not with any inventory. They're either leaving mom and dad's house or they're leaving a rental. They're not coming into the market bringing a house to be sold. So then that's another push on inventory. So even though interest rates kind of maybe adjust a little bit and start coming down, the demand is going to skyrocket house prices. So seller concessions are going to go away. House prices are going to increase a little bit more, making it even harder for buyers to purchase. And it's going to continue this domino effect that we're seeing where people are nervous about selling their current house to buy. So here's my suggestion. You've got sellers in this market. They need to know the pros and the cons about selling. If they wait a little bit, yeah, they might get a little bit more cash for the sale of their property. But if they are looking to replace their home, they're going to lose out on that opportunity on the replacement side. So if they're looking to sell and buy, just do that buy up transition is a great time for them. They're going to lose a little bit on the sale of their house. They're also going to win a little bit on the purchase of their replacement home. So it's going to balance out. And then at some point in the future, when it makes sense to them, if it's a possibility, they can look to refinance to reduce their monthly obligations on their house, right? So win, win, win. If they are a first-time buyer coming into this market, they are nervous. Higher interest rates are a lot to stomach. It is uncomfortable to think of a higher mortgage payment, but rents are going to keep going up. I don't see rents coming down. Rents come down when there's higher vacancy. What do we don't have right now? Inventory for people to buy houses. So what do they need to do? They're either going to live full-time in an RV, which in a lot of counties is really difficult to do because you can't live full-time in an RV, or they're going to rent. What happens with rent? Prices go up because of demand. So first-time home buyers need to see the value in understanding that waiting for the future to buy is actually going to cost them a lot of money on that cost of waiting, when they could look at purchasing, put themselves in a great financial position later and look to refinance later down the line. If clients have a fantastic interest rate, this might be a really great opportunity for them to actually purchase another home with the lowest down payment possible and actually rent out their current home if it makes sense. See, that's one of the processes that we're working on. As you guys know, we downsized last year. We bought a smaller home because our family size was reducing, but it was also steps that made sense into a retirement game plan. So where we lived before in Hansville, it's not easy to rent out a over 3,000 square foot home. It's not easy at all. You don't get a lot of families up there looking to rent. So that was not a good opportunity for that home. The value of that home at the time that we sold made sense to sell it, then to buy a smaller home in a very family-friendly neighborhood by an elementary. We're going to wait probably another year and then size up or rent out our current property. So we have a good rate on it. We'll get rid of the mortgage insurance at that point. So bringing in a renter is going to be net equity that can go into retirement game planning. On top of that as well, this smaller home, it's a new home. So we don't have concerns about it lasting when we're ready to retire. So when we're ready to retire and our last kid has finally moved out because all the other adult kids have moved out, then at that point we can look at actually moving back to our retirement home. This is a great strategy for our current clients. And this is a strategy we can work on to explain to them, show them in a webinar, showcase the numbers. Because if it makes sense for them, they love their little house, but it's just too little right now for what they need in their life. Why not rent that current house? And if they're getting a mortgage on the replacement home, go into it with the lowest down payment possible because you know you're going to eventually refinance that. Then the house that you're exiting from, all we need to do is prove that you've got a valid signed lease agreement and security deposit and that you really have a renter moving into that property, and that offsets that mortgage like it didn't even exist. So now that's not including their debt to income ratio, and they have a retirement game plan because maybe eventually they don't want to live here, maybe they want to move somewhere else. Then they can sell two houses when it's time to retire and really bank on the equity to purchase where they want to go. So it is all about strategy. It's understanding where the rates are going. It's understanding that buying in a higher market where interest rates are a little bit higher, but the value is on your side for the winning, getting the seller concessions, getting help with temporarily buying down that interest rate, or even just getting them to pay all your closing costs, and then adjusting that strategy to start serving you for 25 years down the line with potentially renting out your current house. These are really huge winning strategies for clients who don't have any other retirement game plans already set up. So if you want to talk more about how we can create this strategy for your clients, or if you are a client and you want to start figuring out how to do this strategy, let's talk about it. We can do the numbers, we can put a game plan in place, and then we can start doing these maneuvering steps to help you reach your retirement game plan. It's all about strategy, and it's really good to start thinking about that strategy as early on as possible. So that's it for me. I think interest rates are going to be slowly heading down. If you have a client that is closing pretty soon, I would suggest they probably lock just so that they're not stuck in a position where maybe they lose out on today's rate if things get a little choppy for a few days. But otherwise, I think as we progress into 2023, we're going to see those interest rates start trickling down, and we're going to see fantastic opportunity for sellers. So if you're a buyer, don't miss the boat.